Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Theunis and Daan Steyn.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session. My name is Daan from JDA, and I must say, beer kind of runs through our veins at JDA. Globally, we help plan and deliver 165 billion bottles of beer a year. So it is our favorite product. And I just wanted to, I'm going to spend 2 minutes. I know you're really here to listen to Theunis. So I just want to invite you guys to our stalletjie out there, our stand. We are running a competition, lucky draw for a GoPro. So come around and put your name in for that. And then just with regards to Theunis, so I was going to say all that they've just played there, so I kind of don't have anything to say. But I am looking forward to Theunis's discussion because he's obviously last 2 years been implementing our transportation planning system, but he will also be touching on 4Kites, which is one of our IoT partners. So we've got a Luminate strategy to kind of pull in information from the Internet of Things and to augment the planning and execution. So I'm quite excited to hear about that. And without further ado, I'm going to put Theunis on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don. So good afternoon. Thanks, Don. Thanks for the guys that's being here. Literally the last session before the day ends. I was actually surprised that there would be so many people here actually looking forward to what I had to say. Anyway, so what I wanted to take you guys through, as Don mentioned, the last 2 years, their solution and our TMS actually consumed my life and has been my baby. So it's actually quite refreshing to talk about something that I have intimate knowledge from signing contracts to signing off technical specifications for the solution, actually sitting in on training, doing go-live support has really consumed my life. And what I wanted to do today is share our, or AB InBev's journey, where we started and what are we doing as a global business to move our TMS into the global scale and centralizing that specifically. So where we actually started, so if you guys haven't been reading the news for the last 2 years, SAB as the local unit, as you guys know, we've been consumed by AB InBev, so literally the world's #1 brewer taking over the world's #2 brewer. Through that process, concluded in 2016, October 2016, like any merger, we were basically split into 2 zones, if I can call it that. So split into what we used to call then a red zone and a gold zone. Red specifically being historically AB InBev zones, and I've got all the countries listed there. Gold zone, which was the remaining SAB Miller zones, so the zones that wasn't sold off as part of the Competition Commission issues that we had. Through this merger and any merger, there was an expectation from investors to come up with savings and synergies. Why the hell would 2 massive companies actually become one if there's not synergies to be had? Through a whole host of workshops, it's actually funny because, as the intro said, in my past life, I sat on the other side of the fence. My SAP experience, SAB Miller bought businesses in Australia and Latin America, and I used to rock up there and say, all right, we're here, you're having our solution, we'll be putting it in, these are the KPIs, let's go. Now we were on the other side where AB InBev sat with us and say, here's your solution, here are the KPIs, go and put it in. So it's funny how that works. So through the combination, we had to share a lot of best practices. One of the key items that came out specifically is from a gold zone, there was a lot of synergies to be had around a TMS solution. And that's literally where my job started in the new company. I was tasked to do basically 2 projects, specifically in our bigger, or historically our SAB Miller, our bigger markets. So 2 projects with one common denominator. We needed to put in one solution, which is JDA's TMS. We had one service provider that helped us as well, which is Accenture. And Accenture had two components. So there was the consulting component, and then there was a managed service in Barcelona, a center of excellence specifically on their TMS, and I'll come talk about that a little bit later. And we actually had one methodology that Accenture brought to the table. Specifically, they called it a bull run return model, and I'll speak about it a little bit later. So if I look at the two deployments that we started, specifically in South Africa, we replaced a custom built solution called PDMS. The biggest thing actually from the day one workshop, the transportation manager said to us, just give me visibility. I don't really care about the savings. Just give me something so I can actually see what's happening in my business. So that was the biggest gripe from them. We high level assumed that we were going to save 5% of VLC. In our terms, VLC is variable logistics cost. Similarly, Colombia, in theory, is similar to South Africa in the sense of it's a big market, it's around about the same population, third world country. In beer terms, 98% market share. South Africa, we've got a bit less, but they had a completely different solution. Their transportation was completely outsourced. They were very skeptical from day one. We tried a couple of years, luckily I wasn't part of that, to deploy a similar solution there, and it didn't work because of a lot of business issues. Anyway, so again, similar to them, we sort of expected that we would get around 5% VLC savings. Now, to be clear, once we started off the project, we did a bottom-up analysis. I mean, when we created the business case, 5% was thrown around. That's what directors sort of thumb-sucked and gave to us as a target. We actually looked at the numbers. We started analyzing the operations, did a bottom-up analysis, and what we found that these were the items that we thought that will actually give us that savings. The actual methodology that we used, and again, I'll come to that, specifically triangulation. The way that we transport beer was not effective. We could get out of the tool a lot of dead leg reduction and actually consolidation. Again, I'll come to the consolidation. The tool would enable us to do spot buying. So what happened today, or what used to happen, people used to pick up the phone their 3 top carriers if we've got a load that we didn't plan for that we need to execute. There was no system in place that we can run a quick auction, get the guys to bid, select the guy on price. So that enabled spot buying for us. Visibility, I think Daan mentioned 4 kites, I'll come back to that. Freight bill and audit is really a process to put in place. I mean, in reality, we had a spreadsheet. We had a lady that looked at all the loads that we did. She created the POs in our ERP. There was no automated way. If that lady is sick, on leave, we got a problem. So, through the tool, we wanted to automate specifically every trip, what's on there, who did it, how many kilometers did he travel, did we pay him, automate the actual PO creation. And from the IT side, what we decided to do is specifically use a SaaS model, so not an on-premise stand-up service, actually make use of a cloud-based solution from JDA. Now, to talk about the build, run, return model. Like I mentioned, we used Accenture. There's a lot of supply chain guys here, and a typical deployment of any software. Historically, you would go through an analyze phase, a design phase, a build phase, a test phase, actually deploy. 8 months down the line, you actually go live for the first time. That's the first time you actually use the system. The typical bottlenecks that you'll have with any new solution, there will be problems. You will not get the thing working the way it's supposed to be working from day one. So realistically, you're actually only getting benefits in year 2 from the tool, once everything has bedded down and worked the way that it's supposed to. Now, through this methodology, build, run, return, we split the functionality of the system in 3 phases. So we looked at the planning capability, execution, freight bill, and audit. We identified the planning component as the critical component where we as the business will get the most value out of the tool. So the idea is we fly a plane while we're building the plane, if you've seen that YouTube video. So that was the idea. We were going to go through a normal project cycle, but focus on the planning capability first and go live with it while we're still building the execution piece. The idea behind that is we are going to outsource the planning capability. So we're going to build and deploy the planning capability and give it to Accenture's managed service in Barcelona. This is a center of excellence where they run the planning capability for other clients. So from day one, we can go live at least with the planning component, have some experts actually run it, the optimizer, and give us the results. And we start executing it against that. So within 3 months, we can start getting benefits from this tool. Now, the most important thing, and where we had a lot of scratching our heads, is how do I outsource something and still get the benefit out of it? So when we started looking at contracting this managed service, we identified 3 business KPIs that we linked to the managed service payment. So yes, they've got a fixed part, but we slotted a big variable piece. So we linked the 3 business KPIs with a threshold, a target, and an exceed. On a monthly basis, the legit business KPIs we monitored. So if Accenture hit the target, they get 100% of their fee. If they hit just above the threshold, depending on the percentage, they would get a percentage of their fee. If they exceed, we pay them more than what we contractually signed up for. But it was important for us, the 3 business KPIs that we made them sign up for and us, if they exceed, we would get more money from a business perspective than we're actually paying them to perform the service. So it was critically important to make sure that we contracted in such a way that, if the system works and they are running it for us, we actually get more value than what we're paying them for. The other important step here around the return model, well, if I say planning, the planning capability specifically. So it's a hell of a difficult to take a function in the business today and take it out and put it somewhere else. The business kickback that you have for taking functionality, the whole jobs, how is this impacting my job? You're taking the service and centralizing it somewhere. If something doesn't exist in now, we already have it by doing this project sitting in Barcelona. It never exists inside the country. So it's a lot easier to take it then from there and put it into a specific function in AB InBev if it never existed inside of the market. So that was the other key enabler for this build, run, return model. Now, outsourcing is sort of a drug. You need to have some sort of strategy to get off it. Otherwise, you'll keep on renewing that contract. We'll keep on paying Accenture, and it never comes back to us. So what we did to ensure that that's actually a success, we contracted in such a way that the last 3 months of Accenture's 1-year term to run this managed service for us, our guys sitting somewhere central, so returning it back into AB InBev, we decided that our guys will be using the system, but Accenture will be paid based on our guys' performance, hitting target, threshold. That ensures it's in their interest for the last 3 months that they do proper knowledge transfer to our guys, because once it's in our hands, I expect our guys to do exact same or achieve the exact same performance that Accenture would have done. Now to go to the actual deployment. So these are the various modules that we looked at. So, we've got the 5, so load building, planning, execution, freight bill and audit, and specifically track and trace. Now, load building, we specifically made use of JDA shipment scheduler. I don't know if people have used it here. I don't know if someone can stick up their hand if they used it, because I'd like to talk to you. I had a hell of a hard time finding someone that can actually help me do this piece. Now, what shipment scheduler does today, this is a data-hungry beast. You need to give it a hell of a lot of data for this thing to actually work the way that it's intended to. And that's why, in my opinion, I couldn't find anybody that can tell me how do I give this data to this thing, because nobody wants to put in the effort to actually give the data to it. So you need to give it stuff like your inventory policy, stock on hand, what's your production plan, your dimensions for all your SKUs, pallets, weights. You need to give it a hell of a lot of data. Now, what that enables you to do is I can give it my gross requirements. So we've got a supply network planning tool, and it calculates for tomorrow, for the week, I need to move X amount of pallets from here to there, from A to B. So where we use the solution is specifically between our manufacturing facilities, so our breweries and our depots, so primary distribution, or tier 1 is what we call it. So if I give a week's worth of plan here, what happens is it takes all of that stuff into consideration. So my inventory policy, what do I need to move, and it would load smooth for me. So I'll talk about load smoothing. It will actually look at my safety requirements to actually, because I need to give it my trailer lengths where the axles sit, and it actually will load balance for me. It will bolt pallets as well for me. Now, what that meant for us as a business is we could increase our weight per shipment. Now, that was the ultimate KPI that we wanted to move here. Reduce my inventory, and I'll come back to the inventory. Yes, through the axle balancing, we would improve our safety and reduce top-ups. So I'm happy to see one of my colleagues is here, and I remember the first time where I sat with Lennon, and I asked him to explain to me what the hell are they doing here today? How do we build loads today? And it's like a calculator exercise. So every trailer has got X amount of pallet spots, got weight restrictions, and it's just a simple division. It works okay. It doesn't do any axle balancing or anything like that from a calculator, but what it can do is it left us with little buckets per trips. So an eighth of a truck is full, or it's almost full. So what the hell? How do we fill this truck up? And what the guys used to do, and Lennon showed us firsthand, is they just take whatever's the most common SKU, just make it a full truck. So we used to just add Black Label, Hansa, quartz, just throw it up there. It's going to be consumed anyway. So just fill up the truck, make sure we hit the weight per shipment. And that's not an effective way to move stuff around. So what Shipment Scheduler gave us is, by feeding it all that data, it looked at the inventory plan or my production plan for the week. Do I really need to move this eighth of a truck? Is it really needed to be there tomorrow? Or can I move something that I'm going to move there tomorrow and anyway? Can I move it forward? Does that conflict with my manufacturing plan? Will I have it in time? It made these type of trade-offs to ultimately build a full truck. And that's what that piece of functionality did for us. Now, the next piece, the planning part, this is what JDA does, and JDA does very well. That's what the core optimizer does. So there's nothing really to add there. The biggest thing for us there is today it is assumed. So in South Africa, so quartz is 80% of our market. I'm sure there's not a lot of people that drink quartz here, but it's 80% of our business. So around transportation, it's a massive thing. So if we move beer from A to B, the expectation and the assumption, and that's again when business doesn't make sense, if people start assuming stuff. So if we move product from A to B, we assumed that we will get a full truck of empty, so quartz, coming back into the brewery. And that was always the assumption. We didn't plan for it. We just assumed that if we go from here to there, we'll just load whatever is there, and it will be a full truck and come back. What that resulted in is on specific times of the year, there is not product there. So the truck is coming back empty. So if I'm moving from A to B, 8 full loads, but there's only 6 empty loads, if I can call it quart loads, coming back, there's 2 loads that's going to come back empty. That's kilometers that I'm paying for. So what the business used to do is they used to pick up the phone, ask the nearest depot close by, do you have any? And then start driving there. But that's a very manual process. So through the planning capability, we put down the fulls plan and the empties plan for every single depot across the country, allowing us to throw everything into the optimizer bucket so it can calculate, do I need to go automatically from A to B? There's not enough empties, go to C and come back. So that's sort of what the planning bit did for us. So specifically execution. Execution is where we looked at 4 kites as integration. So today, there's a hell of a lot of depot sheets being filled out manually when a truck came in, when a truck left, and then people have to put it into systems to actually report at the end of the day. A big KPI for us is turnaround time. So we always want to reduce that as much as we can. So the execution piece of JDA, with the use of 4 kites and the geofencing, we would know automatically, no manual brew sheet, depot sheet, gate sheet, nothing of that nonsense. Or someone clicking in the system on a button, nothing. So as soon as a truck automatically goes into a geofence, I know he's coming in. What's the timestamp? Boom. When he leaves, what is the timestamp? So in an automated way, we can start actually calculating our turnaround times, specifically around categorization. So it doesn't help. I've got this big fancy TMS tool that creates this awesome plan, but our execution goes haywire. So manufacturing drops, production issues, whatever the case. So it allowed us to actually categorize issues when we have issues, integrate it back to our back end. That integration also goes over to the next one, our freight bill and audit. So that's really an easy part. So we just automated the way that we pay carriers. So TMS has got the flexibility that once a trip is done, you send a sort of invoice to the carrier. He can dispute it. Once he agrees it, we then bolt it automatically back into our ERP. So there's no more lady filling in a spreadsheet, creating a manual PO. We've got full traceability between when a load was created, actually exists in SAP, how it was executed by who, what was the exact kilometers, because that's what 4Kites gives us. It's already been okayed by the carrier that this is the amount that it needs to be paid, and then we actually integrate it back into our SAP and actually pay the guys. So we've got full traceability from an audit perspective. Now, track and trace is really the piece that excited me when I started this project, besides the whole shipment scheduler piece. Now, I looked everywhere, from local vendors, Netstar, all of the usual suspects here. I looked globally, what the hell Europe is using. IBM is a big business, so I started asking around, what are you guys doing for track and trace? And we ended up going with 4Kites. So the beauty of 4Kites is, today, the way that we structured our contract with the carriers, we subsidize their Netstar tracking unit. But we didn't find a proper way to integrate it into our actual TMS system. So it's sort of disconnected. We get the tracking information, but it's a different platform. We actually pay them to have this tracking solution. So with 4Kites, it is tracking agnostic. I don't care who the shipping company, what tracking system does he have. I know for a fact he has one, but I don't care who it is. I just want the data. And that's what 4Kites gave us. So specifically on the track and trace side, 4Kites, besides the timestamps that I've already mentioned, where we would draw octagons around our brewery so that we can capture automatically in and out, what this allowed us to do is create a proper view for our control tower in the T1 space, where I can have a big screen TV open with South Africa as a map, and it's awesome. You've got these 3 different robots colors of trucks, so it's either green, yellow, or red, and green based on my planning that I've done. If it's green, it's according to the plan. If it's yellow, I'm missing by X, and you can define when you see X. Or red, where there's legitimately an issue. Either I'm dropping a load, I'm behind a lot of the case. That enabled our control tower to actually manage by exception. I don't want to be dealing with, on a daily basis, all my loads. I just want to deal with the problem loads. That visibility allowed us, if I see something is red, instead being phoned by the carrier and figuring out at the end that, oh crap, we're going to drop a load that's late at 4 o'clock, because that same truck that's late now, stuck in traffic, needs to come back, pick up something else, and go somewhere else. I can solve that problem in the day. I don't have to wait till the end of the day to figure out that I had a problem today, that now I need to move into tomorrow. So that was the first thing that 4Kites enabled for us. The second thing, the amount of phone calls from the depot to the control tower, asking, where the hell is my Castle Light truck? I need to send a truck to this specific customer. We've got a deadline at this specific time. So all of these manual phone calls, and then the control center picks up the phone or goes into this crappy website for Netstar to go and find out where the hell is this truck. That enabled us to, because I'm already feeding the beast in load planning, sending all of my SKUs, whatever's on the truck, it allowed us to have visibility of SKU-related information. Not only do I know where the hell the truck is, I know exactly what's on the truck. So that allowed me to create a screen similar to my control tower in every single depot. Now, what that enabled me to do is the depot would have a view of all the trucks coming in and what the hell is on them. Are they late? Are they according to time? What the hell is going on? So they can resource accordingly. They know that, oh, if this truck that needs this beer needs to go out to a customer, they know exactly, am I going to make it? Can I pick up the phone now and tell the customer, you're not going to get it today, you're going to get it tomorrow? That's the type of visibility that we got from that specific track and trace solution. Now, if I look at the positives, it really has changed in our IT landscape. So since ABMF came along, in the past, I was measured on, did I deliver a project in full and on budget in time? That was my KPI as an IT guy. Did the guys use the system effectively? Is the business getting the value? That was not my problem. That was the business problem. What's fundamentally changed with AB InBev is, in the beginning of a project, I sign up for the business KPI. So, when I signed up to 5%, am I going to get my bonus? I legitimately didn't know. I mean, I did all my research. Is JDA the right system? Hell, Lennon, how the hell are you guys doing it today? Do you think we're going to make this? I started stressing. So, aligning the IT guy to the actual business KPI ensures that we're all going for the same thing in the end of the day. On project, on time, on budget, that's expected of me. That's not my KPI anymore. The other thing is keeping the contractors honest. Getting them to sign up to this business KPI. If the system is not working the way it should be, they pulling out the Excel, managing the stuff on the side while they're fixing the system very quickly if they sign up to these business KPIs from day one. The other important thing that we sort of picked up is, we can get Accenture to come and do work for us. I mean, they're great at exactly this type of thing, talking to a presentation. When the tacky hits the tar and the JDA optimization is not getting the results it should, better get someone that actually knows how that thing works. Getting a fancy consultant showing you a presentation doesn't get the optimizer to fix stuff. You need to get someone that actually knows how it works. We got a hell of a lot of benefits. It was very easy for me reaching my target last year. Yes, I stressed a lot in the beginning, but once you actually find out how the system works, we got a lot of benefit. The target was 5%. It was easy 10% that we got for South Africa. But that is not what I got for Colombia. So my target, I've got a global role, so it's not just South Africa. So some of the negatives, I think I've mentioned this earlier, finding someone that can do shipment scheduler is a nightmare. I only found one company that did it, and through JDA's help, Michelin in France did it, and flying a guy in to explain us how this thing works, getting a guy to demo it. So I was very reluctant in the beginning. I said, no, tell me what you need. I'll give you the data. Show me. I want to see this thing working first. Getting a shipment scheduler guy was a problem. The other hard lesson that I learned, there's no one solution fits all. So don't think because it was a success in South Africa, it's going to be a success in Colombia. It's completely different. The way that the market works, the way that they deal with carriers, regulation, different. And there's certain stuff that JDA just can't do at this stage. So the type of government rules that they've got in Colombia, there's no constraint indicator to deal with plica plata constraints that they've got in Colombia. I mean, you can't put it in, so you have to work around it. So there's pros and cons like all of this stuff. So while we were busy doing this deployment, I started getting a lot of phone calls. ABMF is a big business. You will see shortly, we've got it in a hell of a lot of countries, and I started getting phone calls from more than one country. Europe, Argentina, saying, oh, we heard that you're getting great results. Please, we need help. We've got all of these headaches. And then, on a plane, go to Europe. I can't speak Spanish, so it's easy for me to go to Europe. We sat a week with our Western Europe business, so there's a business service center that runs JDA TMS there, and then our Eastern Europe business. So spent a week in Ukraine. Only to find out that this solution doesn't mean it's deployed, it works. the way that it should work. And that sort of sparked, and a light bulb actually came on, that we've got this big fancy system that most of our countries are using, but they're not getting the benefit. And that sparked us to actually go through an exercise where we had to look at where the hell is this tool deployed? How are the guys actually using the tool today? Is there any more benefits that we can get out of this tool? So why can a country like South Africa save 10%, and you hear of these complaints in other countries, they're getting no benefit, they actually want to switch it off. So why is there such a massive difference? So can we get some more savings? How do we improve the situation now? And then what can we centralize? So this is sort of the map of where we operate as AB InBev. So what I've done is I've colored blue, so the JDA colors, where we have JDA today, sort of this ugly orange color where we don't have a JDA today. So this is countries that we operate in that we don't have, and then sort of gray is where we don't operate at all. Now, if you actually look at the detail, you would notice there's a lot more blue than there is orange. But if you actually look at the individual items, there's different versions of JDA TMS deployed all over the show, supported by completely different teams all over the show. There's not one single strategy saying, this is how we operate. This is the set functionalities that we used. So that sparked us, not only looking at that graph, we realized that almost 2/3 of our business and all of our spend, T1 spend, so brewery to depot spend, is actually run through the tool. So if it's not run successfully, there's a lot of money to be saved in that case. I don't know about the businesses that you guys operate, but transport is a massive cost for us. And even a small change makes a big difference in our bottom line. So then we identified, Canada, Panama, South Korea, Chile, Australia, and India as possible countries that we can look at. So when we actually did the assessment, so now after going to Europe, we identified, there's a lot of issues that the guys are having with this exact same system. So we sparked an assessment. So literally going to every single country where this thing is deployed and asking them these type of questions. What flows do you have in TMS? So the theory there is, if you're using the same resource, either being at the depot, the brewery, the warehouse, if you putting in half of your constraints, managing in one system, and the other half is not there, you're not going to get an optimized answer from this big fancy tool. Rather put as much as you can into it and get a more optimized plan. So we looked at the flows that's in there. How the hell are you doing spot buying or e-auctions? The big one that I was interested in, how the hell are you load building today? Is it a division? Optimization. How often, when last have you looked at your optimization file? The business changes. You can't deploy a system and then 4 years deploy it again because you've now bought X amount of DCs, you've got these X amount of products now, you've changed your transport strategy completely. The business evolves, you need to go back to the optimizer. Execution. How are you measuring plan versus actuals? How are you paying? How are you measuring how you're paying? Is there a carrier scorecard? Are you running simulations before peak to make sure you've got the optimal strategy? What the hell are you doing for track and trace? Master data. We found that there's a hell of a lot of people maintaining master data in 2 different systems. So TMS has got some master data. It actually comes from the ERP. They're maintaining it there. There's another guy maintaining it in the ERP system when they feel like it. And also general functionality. So, do you have documentation? Do you have processes well defined? And what we picked up is the one was sort of easy to fix. There was a distinct difference between what procurement is busy negotiating with carriers and then how we run the TMS system is not aligned. The one-way trips, triangulation, return legs, what they were busy with is what was not in the actual TMS tool. What we realized is there's a lot of inflows, we call it inflows or verticals. Beer is a big business in South Africa, at least. We don't just make beer, by the way. We make caps, we make malt. In some of these other South American places, we make bottles, we make labels, we actually make the crates. Anyway, so there's a lot of opportunity to put more items into the TMS. We picked up APN as APAC North, so it's basically China. They were the only ones that really used the optimization engine to its full extent. You know, they also were the only guys that actually had the empties or returnable bottles inside TMS. So I don't know what all these other countries were doing at planning it outside. Yeah, we also picked up most of the guys actually use the TMS to communicate with the carriers, that you accept a bid, that you reject a bid. And that's what they were using the tool for, not the optimizing of the tool. You know, there was not a standardized track and trace solution. Master data was a mess. They didn't have training material. And the reality is, where we use the TMS is in a business service center. There's a hell of a lot of staff turnover in those areas. So you need to have a proper end-user manual explaining the processes, how to use the tool. And then the worst one, in my opinion, is we didn't have any in-house team. So when I was busy deploying it, that's why I was getting these phone calls to come and help. We've got a problem, because we didn't have someone in-house that can fix stuff, can look at the file, knows how the stuff is set up. For every problem that we had to run to the vendor. Can you help us with this workshop? Oh, no, by the way, it's going to cost you so much just to run a workshop. So we didn't have any internal teams to analyze problems and figure stuff out. So, you know, that sort of sparked off. I mean, this is not really that interesting for you, but it sparked off sort of a program where we wanted to fix the basics, setting up a technical team, defining how our processes should be. And then we had two options that we presented to the management team of, okay, how are we going to tackle this problem? You know, looking at putting in more inflows, getting the centralized team to fix what we have now. All of these older countries, or these countries that's got the JDA version that's going out of support. So not only do you have to pay more for support, upgrade them, make use of the new functionality. All of those, I think it was 6 or 7 countries that I identified, go and do the rollout there. You know, all of these things. And what are we going to centralize? And that was the other part. As I mentioned, the planning component in our eyes, or in ABMF's eyes, is the only component that we think that we can put in a centralized fashion. Execution, so dealing with carriers dropping loads or manufacturing, that we feel, leave it in the country. Deal with the day-to-day stuff. But the planning component, when the optimization runs, that we can put in a centralized option. So what we looked at is sort of 3 options here, is what I've showed to you guys here, is having one global hub. We haven't defined where that is, even if we want to go there. Option 2, sort of based on time zones, is what we looked at. So either having on the left, dealing with Americas, one specifically dealing with Europe and Africa, and another dealing with APAC. You know, so that's what we are preferred to now at this stage, or just doing it completely at zonal level. So this is what we want to do in the future, specifically for our planning capability. And that's really what I wanted to share with you guys. So hopefully you learned from our mistakes at the very least, or picked up some of the stuff that we're doing that you possibly can in the future. So hopefully it wasn't a waste of 30 minutes to take you through our strategy. Thanks.